Hey everyone, Phobos here, coming at you with a different kind of video today, and this is going to be the video that I was talking about probably like a week ago or something when I mentioned I was going to do a video getting into more specifics on basically like the coaching thing I was talking about, or the mentoring thing. I made a post on the PoE subreddit. I'll link it in the description, but basically it's just a post offering to be like a PoE mentor for people. And this is the post that's gonna, or this is the video that I'm making to go with it, to just get into the specifics a bit, let you guys know, what it would be about and stuff like that. So if anybody from the channel wants to participate, or if you know anybody who you think would be interested, just let me know. So it sounds like kind of like a weird thing, but it's not necessarily like a super time heavy investment that you have to make or anything like that. It's more just like having somebody to help guide you while you play. And I'm going to break it down into 3 specific ways that I'll be offering to do that. So there's the first one, which is helping people find a build. Now, I personally think this is kind of like the most important thing in PoE because the game is very slow at the start and there's so much thrown at you so quick. There's the skill tree, there's the skills, then there's the support gems, which have like a ton of unique interactions. And it can be, especially if you don't know how all the tags work and stuff like that, it can be very hard even to discern like what are the best supports for the skill you want to use, let alone like what ascendancy you should ultimately be going for, and then like how you should path in the tree. So there's just an overwhelming amount of information being thrown at you. And you really need to pick something that you're going to have fun playing. And it's kind of difficult because that just involves a lot of time, obviously, because you have to probably, just troll through YouTube and look at different videos of, different skills being played until you, I guess, find the one that you think looks cool or something like that. So what I would be doing here is I'd be taking the person into like I have a Discord made for this, and we just go into Discord one-on-one. I probably stream it as well, and then that way I can just record it and quickly upload it to the channel. And I just talk with them about kind of like what they're expecting out of the game and what they want to play and what type of character they're looking at building. And in order to get that out of them, I have some questions that I've thought of basically, and it would basically be starting by asking kind of like what archetype they want to play. So, like a bow user, a melee thing, a spellcaster, and then I think I'm gonna make a separate kind of archetype for totems and stuff like that because they don't really play like a traditional spellcaster. So, for example, if somebody's like spellcaster, and it's like, oh well, there's this totem build that's really easy to play and stuff like that, and then they get here and they're just placing down totems the whole time, they don't really find it that fun, then they're probably not going to stick around to play the game. So you have to keep things like that in mind. And I think just starting with probably first the archetype, and then maybe get into like if they want to play like a certain element or a physical thing, and then from there you kind of have an idea of where you want to go. So if somebody says like spellcast or cold, right, you can be like, okay, and they mentioned self-cast, you can go like maybe Frostbolt or Freezing Pulse are going to be like, or Glacial Cascade, I guess, or like 3 options you could definitely do, something like that. And then you could show them how each of the skills work really quickly, and then, they could probably pick one out from there that they think looks cool, and you could show them a guide, stuff like that. So I think that's the best way to get people into it, and that's what that session would be focused on. It'd be just like asking questions to them to try and get out of them what it is they'd want to play. And you can also go into stuff like asking them, like if they've played certain, like what have they played for other ARPGs? That way maybe you can find similar things. Like I've played a lot of Diablo 2. So if somebody mentioned like, like Chain Lightning Source or something, maybe I try to get them into an Arc build. Something like that. And I think that using the lower tier skills is somewhat fine for people's starting builds, as long as they're not like really bad skills. Like Arc is definitely would be an example of a skill that's not tier 1 by any means, but I think somebody could definitely get through the game and still enjoy themselves while playing Arc, and then they could explore other things later. You just want to make sure that people aren't hitting a wall with the skill they're choosing. I think that's the most important part. And then that you set them up with a way to build the skill properly so they're getting the full amount of damage out of it. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing would be helping people with specific parts of the game. Now, I think I'm already going to do a series video. Like Engineering Eternity has basically done something like this. And obviously he does a lot more production value with this stuff. And he takes it like very slow. He does like the hand-holding approach. I'm not criticizing him for, obviously. I think it's really great. His content's really good. So he does that, and it's like very cinematic. And he goes through every bit of the act. I think he's on like Act 8 or 9 right now. So he almost has them for all the acts. But I was going to do something where it's more tailored to hardcore specifically, and how to survive specific, not only bosses and things like that, but specific zones and doing specific quests on hardcore. And the video is just going to be a lot more bare bones and to the point, I guess, without without a lot of the editing and stuff like that. It's just going to be more explanation based. But I think this is also a good idea to do for the one-on-one sessions. So, like, if somebody has a specific problem with an act or a specific boss, then I would just go into Discord with them one-on-one, and I'd talk about what to do, basically, how to navigate a certain zone, because there are certain zones, as I mentioned, the Reddit posts, that are more difficult than others. The progression isn't exactly linear, so you could have like a couple really easy zones in a row and then run into some very difficult zones, and that kind of throws people off because they're so used to like maybe the easier content in one area, and their character, not even necessarily their play style, but like their character might be prepared to handle that, but then you get into another zone where it's like really important to have fire resistance or something. Like, let's say you go into Act 6 with like 25 fire res, you're gonna have a bad time. So yeah, there's issues like that, and you can definitely just help people like that across the board. Those are gonna be like the shorter options typically. It probably won't take too long to address specific questions people have, or to help them find a build in general. And then the third option is going to be a run through for the entire game. Now, this is probably going to be done on Abyss softcore, because obviously, even if you're a hardcore player, or you aspire to be a hardcore player, it's not really going to make sense to try and run it on hardcore if, because if you die, then we just have to like restart the run every time, and that's not very productive. So, yeah, we're going to basically keep this on Abyss softcore, and it'll just be like a run through the game, and I'll explain pretty much everything that's pertinent to your character, your specific build, your specific spec as we're leveling through the game. Now, this is obviously going to be a lot better if you play something that is like, I guess, similar to something that I've played before. So I'll make that kind of like known, I guess, before we get into that. Like, I typically play, let's see, I have experience with totems, spells, mines, some damage over time things. I do have experience with melee builds to some extent, like Reeve. I have some experience with ranged attack builds. So it's just going to like depend on like how much advice I'm going to be able to give you, and the amount of coaching I'm going to be able to give you is a bit dependent on what you're playing. Obviously, I do know a lot of general things about the game that a new player probably doesn't, so I'll be helpful in that regard. But I guess like the closer you are to playing a caster, in most cases, I guess, the more I'll be able to help you. But yeah, what we'd be doing is we'd be running through the game, and I'll point out like the difficult areas, what to do to get through them, what you should be doing for gearing, like when you should be getting your +1s, when you should be upgrading your weapons if you're a ranged attack or a melee person, how you can upgrade weapons cheaply, what type of weapon configurations you should be using, what type of links you should be using for certain abilities at certain levels, when you should have your 3-link buy, your 4-link, etc., what to be looking out for, stuff like that. So it'll be just a very comprehensive run. Obviously, that'll take probably more time because, I don't know, I want to say I'm expecting like 8 to 10 hours for that if I were to run through with somebody. So that's probably not going to be for everybody. But I definitely probably be willing to do that if somebody really wanted to learn that way. But so yeah, if anybody's interested in that, just let me know. And like I said, it basically includes the first 2 parts. So obviously, like we'll help you find a build and stuff like that. And I will be explaining specific parts of the game. And then in terms of like who this stuff is aimed at, I guess, right, is another thing. We're going for mostly like really new players. Like I actually made the thread, and some people commented on the thread about practicing Shaper. That's not really what I'm going for here. I'm going for more like people who are just completely new to the game and need help getting through the actual game and getting into maps. Because I feel like the game begins to get a lot more fun once you get into maps, because at that point you can start to do the end game content, which a lot of people make it a goal to do, and then you can also start building wealth, which helps you make your build more powerful and helps you do other builds. And it's really hard to build a ton of wealth prior to that, just because of how the mechanics are set up. Like there's a lot of thresholds on certain unique drops that only drop in maps, or at least like the later portion of the game. So if you're always stuck in the lower levels of the game, and you struggle to get out of those, then you're not going to be having as much fun, I would say, as somebody that's playing in maps or something like that. So yeah, it's really important to get out of the lower levels and experience the full game, I think, and that'll give you a good idea, if you like the game or not. But yeah, just looking for pretty fresh players. Like I would say, if you consistently get to maps, you're probably not the player I'm looking for. Looking for somebody who's probably never gotten to maps before, or maybe has gotten to maps a couple of times, but never really pushed too far beyond 70 or something like that, or maybe 80. So, and it could be the same thing, like if somebody's coming back from a break from the game or something like that, and they haven't really gotten to maps many times, that could be a thing as well. So yeah, looking to help any of those type of people, not really looking to do like Shaper runs. Like I think the guy's idea was like if he buys the set and then he practices on Shaper and then I go in and kill it, so that we don't waste the set if he can't do it. And that's not like a bad idea or anything. I may do that at some point with certain bosses, but right now mostly just looking to make this about low level stuff. So yeah, if you have any friends that would have any interest in anything like that, or if you're interested yourself, just feel free to leave a comment, or you can direct PM me either on Reddit or on YouTube. I'll link the Reddit post, which has my Reddit account, obviously, so just feel free to message me there. Thanks for watching, and talk to you later.